Sound off with me, folks, on Jaylen Brown, ending it just like he started it Sunday against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Jaylen Brown drilled a three-pointer from the right wing, a catch-and-shoot three with 1:16 left in the game, and that three-pointer wound up being the deciding points in this game for a 107-105 win over the visiting Minnesota Timberwolves. And this is exactly how he started the game, except he started the game even hotter. Like, Jaylen Brown has never been as hot as he was at the start of this game. 5 for 5 from three-point range over the first 3.5 minutes of this game. Then he went a little bit cold for a little bit of a stretch, but he came back again and ended it just like he started it with that game-deciding, game-winning three-pointer from the right wing to win this game for the Boston Celtics. During this game, Boston's defense was excellent, and we saw it on the final possession of the night. After Jaylen hit that three, we wound up getting down to the final. It was 7.1 seconds left. Minnesota has the ball coming out of a timeout. They've got a chance to tie or win the game on the final possession. They wound up not doing either of those things because of Boston's defense, and it was Jaylen Brown actually who played the most critical role in that final defensive possession of the night. Jaylen was the man-to-man defender on Anthony Edwards, who had caught fire during the second half, by the way. He scored 16 points during the second half after a not very good performance during the first half. Well, Jaylen Brown was isolated on him defensively and did an excellent job. Stayed in front of him, knocked Anthony Edwards off his dribble, did not allow, arguably, the most athletic wing in the league to beat him off the dribble, was not able to get a shot off at the rim on his drive against Jaylen Brown, and then he had to kick it. Okay, so he kicks it out to the corner. Jason Tatum swings over to Jaden McDaniels. No shot attempt. McDaniels then has to swing it up another pass up to the top of the arc to Naz Reid. And Drew Holiday closes out on him, and Naz Reid didn't even get the shot off before the final buzzer sounded. So the Celtics lead by 2 points going into that final possession, coming out of a timeout. Like, the game is in a situation where it's made for Minnesota. They've got to score at least 2 points there. But Anthony Edwards, as I said, arguably the most athletic, dynamic player on the wing in the NBA, isn't able to beat Jaylen Brown off the dribble. He's got to kick it out. Jason Tatum swings. Jaden McDaniels has to make one more pass, and that one more pass led to the final buzzer sounding before Naz Reid even got the shot off. So this is another example of the Boston Celtics being able to win a game on offense, which they've done multiple times this season on the final possession, or win it with their defense. And that is a separating factor in the NBA. When you can win games in the clutch, both because of your offense and because of your defense, that is what makes you elite. That is what makes you a true title contender, and that is why the Boston Celtics are square in the center of that conversation for yet another year. And Boston was very good on defense throughout this game. We can look at the numbers. Minnesota wound up only shooting 42% from the field for the entire game. They did shoot it well, 42% for the entire game. They did shoot it well from three-point range, almost 37%. So they were very similar to Boston on this night, where Boston's offense was mostly the three-point arc, which we've seen that many times throughout the season. That's what they do. But on this night, that also had to be the case for the Timberwolves. They scored 45 points, 45 of their 105 points from beyond the arc. The Celtics, on the other hand, scored 63 of their 107 from behind the arc. But Minnesota just couldn't get anything cooking on offense. Didn't have a single quarter in this game other than the fourth when they made a run to get back into this. They did not have a very good offensive performance through the first three quarters. In fact, their scoring went down in each of the first three quarters. Opened up with 27, then it went to 25, then it went to 21, and at that point, the Boston Celtics had pulled ahead by 19 at one point, but then we went down to the stretch, and they made a run. They got back into the game. Dillingham was great off the bench for them to help them get back into the game. As we said, Anthony Edwards was pretty darn good during the second half, scoring 16 of his 28 points. But overall, I think Boston would take this defense every night of the season, being able to hold a team that's led by Anthony Edwards with some very good other offensive pieces to 105 points on 42% shooting from the field. You can't complain much about that. So great job by the defense, in particular on that final possession. That's when you can separate yourselves. They say defense wins championships. Well, it happened for the Celtics last season. And then tonight, it wasn't a championship, but tonight, the defense secured this win. Boston had to get a stop, and it got it on that final possession of the night. We've also got to talk about Derek White. I mean, this guy just continues to make big shot after big shot. Tonight, he scored 10 points during the fourth quarter, and before that, he blocked 2 shots during the third quarter. So again, we're talking about getting it done at both ends. Derek White does it every night, and it just seems like, I think a lot of the fan base is probably feeling this way as well. Every time he takes a big shot, you've got so much confidence that the ball is going to go through the rim. Tonight during this game, let's take a look at the fourth quarter for Derek White. As I said, he scored those 10 points, but he was 4 for 5 from the field, 2 of 3 from three-point range. A couple of those threes were just so important to being able to either maintain the lead or just keep the Timberwolves off the mark from being able to tie this up. So Derek White just continues to get it done. He was excellent tonight. 19 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, 2 block shots, getting it done across the board. And by the way, he led Boston in plus minus. So the Celtics were at their best tonight when Derek White was on the floor for his 38 minutes of action, by the way. Boston outscored Minnesota by 8 points during those 38 minutes, and that was the highest the highest plus minus in the game, actually, for the Boston Celtics. So Derek White just keeps getting it done. Now, I want to touch one more time on Jaylen Brown and also Jason Tatum. These two guys both had pretty solid games. And in my opinion, yes, Anthony Edwards did have a solid second half, but Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum were more impactful throughout the duration of this game. Those two guys each wound up scoring at least 26 points apiece. Tatum scored 26. Jaylen Brown scored 29. And at one point during this game, Anthony Edwards actually had more shot attempts at 13 than he had scored points at 12. Tatum and Brown were never in that conversation. Both of them were relatively efficient throughout this game, and Jaylen Brown was extremely efficient, 10 for 18 from the field, 7 for 10 from three-point range. Jason Tatum not quite as efficient, 8 of 21 and 5 of 12 from distance. But Tatum gets it done with 26 and Jaylen Brown with 29. And again, I just want to say, yes, Anthony Edwards had a nice little stretch there in the third and fourth quarter. It was not for the duration of this game. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum were making the mark on this game from start to finish. So in my opinion, both of them outplayed the best player on the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight in Anthony Edwards, and that played a huge role in the Boston Celtics being able to get this win. It's time to take some comments from our fans. We've got 3 of them tonight. We're starting out with Josh David on his frustrations with Boston's crunch time offense. Then we've got JD13 on not liking this win at all. I don't know how that can be the case, but we're going to talk about it. And then last up, we've got Patrick Fennelly on this game's entertainment value. So let's dive into our first one here. All right, Josh David. He's got some questions here about the crunch time offense. He says, up by 5 with a minute left, and they just keep heaving up threes, which almost cost them the W. It's almost unwatchable. Well, Josh, I understand where you're coming from. The Celtics did take a couple of three-pointers during the final minute, but let's talk about those three-pointers, because it wasn't as if 5 players were scattered around the three-point line and the team just settled for threes. The very first one came from Al Horford. And how did Al Horford get the ball? It wound up being off of a drive and kick from Jason Tatum. The Boston Celtics tried to isolate Tatum on Rudy Gobert. They got that switch. I thought Jason Tatum made a great move, beat Gobert off the dribble, but as he got to the rim, a help defender sagged in, and it was 2-on-1 at that point. So Jason Tatum, rather than trying to force a layup, through traffic, through 2 defenders against a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year in Rudy Gobert, Jason Tatum decided to kick it out. So this all started with a drive to the basket. And Jason Tatum read the defense. There were 2 defenders there, one of which was a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year who was coming from behind with extreme length in Rudy Gobert. I don't even know what his wingspan is, but it's got to be 7'6", 7'7", 7'8", somewhere around there. He could have blocked it from behind potentially. So Jason Tatum read the moment, kicked it out to Al Horford. Now, that's a 3-pointer at the end of the shot clock. Horford thought about kicking it to the corner to Jrue Holiday. He didn't exactly do that. He decided to fire up the shot, but it's a quality shot. Like, you're getting it off the drive to the basket, and Tatum would have taken the layup if it was there, but there was a help defender there in front of Tatum when he had Rudy Gobert chasing him down from behind. So it's not, again, like the Celtics just sit around the 3-point line and settle for a 3-pointer. That was a shot that was created off of a paint touch, a drive to the basket, and a kick out, because that's the right basketball play. Now, the other 3-pointer that occurred during the final minute, this one was a little bit different. I did not like the way that the Celtics got their offense rolling. Jaylen Brown wound up with the ball, isolated. I believe that one was also against Rudy Gobert, but isolated. And it was a late clock situation. Like, he got the ball with only probably 4 or 5 seconds left on the shot clock. Didn't have a lot of time to navigate and create something off the dribble like we just talked about with Jason Tatum. So he had to wind up settling for the three-point shot attempt. Now, so that one I get a lot more. But the first one was a drive and kick. That's what you want in your offense. And hopefully that happens with enough time where the player who catches the kick can also potentially drive, kick, or shoot. Okay, so that is offense. That is great offense, and that's why Boston's offense is one of the most efficient in the league. They take 3-pointers, they make 3-pointers, but they only take them when they're open. They don't settle. And I don't think Jaylen Brown settled on that final one either. I think that was a clock situation. He got the ball late in the shot clock, and he didn't have enough time to do a whole lot else. So he had to wind up taking the step back. So I get where you're coming from. I don't think this is totally unjustified by you, Josh David. However, you've got to read the situation. Jason Tatum drove to the basket. It was a great move. The Minnesota Timberwolves just happened to be in a pretty solid defensive position. And rather than force the ball and a layup in that situation against 2 defenders, one of which, again, is the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, he kicked it out for what was a pretty decent 3-point attempt. It was just that Horford faked the pass, and then it was a little bit of an awkward motion for him to release that 3-pointer. So the second one, I can get it. It was a late clock situation. The offense didn't have a whole lot of movement in it on that one, but I don't think that we can term this as almost unwatchable because the Celtics did the right thing on the first one, and on the second one, again, it was just late clock. All right, another critical comment coming in here from our next commenter. That's JD13 on X. JD says, I don't like the win at all. Our defense is slipping badly, and I'm disappointed with our offensive process anytime a defense strings together stops to get back into the game. Got to play our game and not overreact, but another win. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with the first sentence. I don't like the win at all. My question to you, JD, would be, how do you not like a win over a team that was in the Western Conference Finals last season? How do you not like that win? It doesn't matter how you win as long as it's a win. The great teams find ways to win. The mediocre teams find ways to lose. The Boston Celtics just found a way to win against a team with a player that many consider to be an MVP candidate in this league. I'm not saying he's playing at that level right now, but he is an MVP caliber player. And this is a team that last season was on the doorstep of the NBA Finals. And the Celtics just beat them. How can you not like the win at all? I don't understand that. I think you got to take the wins when you can get them, especially in the NBA. It's tough to get any win. And now the Celtics have gotten 14 of them in 17 games. That's pretty darn good. They're 14-3 on the season. They're actually better at this point than they were a year ago. So not liking wins, man, I don't know how you can say that you don't like a win. You got to take them as you can get them. Now, talking about the defense slipping badly, I mean, I just went through the numbers. The Celtics limited the Minnesota Timberwolves to 42% shooting tonight. What else do you want? Anthony Edwards struggled badly for the majority of this game. As I said, at one point, he had more shot attempts, 13, than he had scored points. That's extreme inefficiency. So when you can bottle up one of the best players in the league for the far majority of a game, when you can bottle up the opposing offense as a whole and in its entirety for most of the game at 42% shooting, I don't think that means that the defense is slipping. And then you see the final possession of the night when the Celtics won the game with their defense. So defense slipping badly, I don't see it. I don't see it. Do I think they can get better? Yes, I do. But slipping badly, I just don't see it. I'm sorry. Offensive process when the other team is stringing together stops to get back into the game. Like, are there going to be possessions that aren't perfect? Yes, that's going to happen in the NBA. You're going to rely on your stars. Sometimes they're going to take some shots that maybe if the offense continued to run, you might have gotten one that was slightly at a higher percentage. That's going to happen. It's going to happen with any team. I mean, look on the reverse. Anthony Edwards took a three-pointer late in the game that he probably didn't need to take, but he took it because he's a superstar. It happens around the league. So if you're going to look at the side of the coin for the Celtics, you got to understand what happens for every other team in the league, okay? I don't think the offense really was sluggish. I think they generated some pretty good looks. They didn't make them all, okay, but they did still wind up shooting 38% from three-point range. And anytime you can shoot that percentage with the volume that Boston takes, that's good offense. And actually, in the paint, they were outscored by 14 points, but they didn't take as many shots as the Timberwolves. They actually shot more efficiently in the paint than the Timberwolves did. I believe it was 62-63% for the Celtics and only 52 or 53% for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So you outshoot them from three. You outshoot them from the paint. What else do you want? I mean, the mid-range exists, but you win games at the rim and from beyond the arc. And the Boston Celtics continue to do that. And when I say do that, I mean win basketball games. So a few comments here that I don't necessarily agree with. Hopefully you're hearing me out here. I understand how you can have this opinion, but hopefully I can sway you back in the right direction, JD13. All right, our last comment of the night coming from Patrick Fennelly saying, for a regular season game, fun to watch. Simple and straight to the point, Patrick. I couldn't agree with you more. Like, when you've got two of the top teams, and I know Minnesota's record is not one of the top records in the league. They're 500 now. But the talent is there. That team was in the Western Conference Finals last season. They've got one of the top up-and-coming players in the NBA on their side. When you can put that on the floor with the defending champions, what we saw is exactly what you want to see. Now, in Celtics Nation, yeah, you'd like to see a 20-point win, and Boston was up for 19, and they were controlling this game for the majority of the afternoon. But this is what you want to see. You want to see a great basketball game when you've got two of the most talented teams in the league who have championship aspirations facing off. And that's exactly what we got. The game literally came down to the final possession of the night, and it was the better team, the defending champs, who got it done. They got it done with their defense after they got it done with their offense just about a minute before when Jaylen Brown drained that big three-pointer from the right wing. But this was a great game. Fun to watch. A great regular season game in November, by the way. It's not only NBA Cup games that are entertaining in November, okay? There's some other ones on the docket as well. And this was a great one today between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Boston Celtics. And let's hope that we get that gifted to us again tomorrow, because the Boston Celtics will play for the second time in as many days at TD Garden with back-to-back home games here Today, it was the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tomorrow, it is the L.A. Clippers. Now, the Clippers are playing right now in Philadelphia. So, neither of these teams gets a rest advantage. I guess the Celtics will have a few hours of an advantage because their game is already over. But the Clippers are playing as well, so both of these teams will be on the second night of a back-to-back. The Clippers are a very interesting team this season. If you haven't been following them, you should. They're ranked 6th in the Western Conference standings right now. And by the way, the West is loaded with good teams. Somehow Ty Lue has this Clippers team playing at a very high level while they're playing without Kawhi Leonard. And then right now they're also without their leading scorer, Norman Powell. He is out with a hamstring injury. He did travel with the Clippers on this East Coast trip. He's not playing tonight against Philadelphia, but he could possibly be back on the court tomorrow. We don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. He injured his hamstring last Monday against Golden State. So coming back within a week with a hamstring, that doesn't usually happen, but he did travel with the team. It's definitely possible that he could get on the court for this game tomorrow night. But really, the big part of it is, for the Clippers, is James Harden is playing great basketball for them. It's the James Harden show. They've got some other role players playing at a high level around him, but James Harden and Norman Powell, who, as we said, may not play, but those two guys have been carrying the Clippers to where they are right now, which at this point, before the conclusion of tonight's game in Philadelphia, is a 10-7 record out there in the Western Conference. So this team has been playing great. They're going to be in here tomorrow for a Monday night showdown with the Boston Celtics. Again, both teams will be on the second night of a back-to-back, so it should be a fun one, even in terms of rest. And we're going to see if the Celtics can come out on top with yet another victory. So tip-off is at 7:30 p.m. The game is coming at you from TD Garden. Make sure you respond to my post after the game. Send in your comments. We want to take them here on Sound Off with the Boston Celtics, and I'm going to do exactly that tomorrow night. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you tomorrow night.